Welcome back. Well, in September, 43 Mexican teaching students disappeared after being abducted by local corrupt police and then handed over to a drug gang, sparking national outrage and months-long searches for any sign of the young men. Now, forensic analysts say that they have a DNA match identifying remains as one of the students. With us in the studio, we have Arise contributor Gloria Chapa with more details on that. Gloria?
Well, burned remains found in the Mexican state of Guerrero are now identified as belonging to one of the 43 missing students. This is according to initial DNA tests. Experts in Austria identified the bone fragment found in a bag of ash and burned tire in a river where drug gang members say they tossed the students' remains.
The students have been missing since September 26th after being abducted by corrupt police during a demonstration in the town of Iguala, then handed to a drug gang and told to make them disappear.
The detainees pointed out that in this area, they took the lives of the survivors and then they put them under the rubbish dump where they burnt the bodies. They took shifts so that the fire lasted hours, using diesel, petrol, tires, plastic, that materials found by investigators.
Iguala's former mayor Jose Luis Abarca and his wife Maria Pineda are expected of masterminding the kidnapping together with the drug gang Guerreros Unidos. In the search for the missing students, dozens of bodies have been found in mass graves, although none of the remains are identified as belonging to the students until now. And meanwhile, Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto starts his third year in office this week as his approval ratings drop to the lowest of any Mexican president in almost 20 years. For many Mexicans, the mass kidnapping has become a symbol of corruption, police impunity, and the power of criminal groups in the country, sparking months of nationwide protests.
In November, President Peña Nieto announced an anti-crime plan giving Congress the power to dissolve local governments that are infiltrated by drug gangs, also giving state authorities control over corrupt municipal police.
All right, Gloria. Well, now we are joined by political analyst Omar Garcia Ponce. Thank you for joining us to discuss this issue a little bit further. First of all, why are authorities saying that the Mexican police kidnapped the 43 students in the first place?
Thank you very much for the invitation. So this is actually part of the official story, but also this is what the relatives of the students have been saying about the event. So it seems that the students were protesting against some of the policies from the local government, and this had happened many times before. But this time what apparently happened is that they were kidnapped by the police and disappeared. So that's actually the current status.
Well, there's a lot of concern, clearly, about corruption, about drug lords and gangs being involved with the government, and the government pretty much ignoring things and saying, this isn't really our issue, we're going to let some of this go. Why would they do that? Yeah,
actually, at the beginning, the reaction of the government was to see this as a problem for local institutions. So it took them like 10 days to react to the event and actually to implement some strategy aiming at finding the federal government. And so I think that the current presidential administration had been ignored the problem of violence, and specifically drug-related violence in Mexico, the infiltration of criminal organizations into local institutions. And that was part of the rhetorics of the federal government, but this has changed, obviously, during the past days.
Well, Gloria, what's your take on that? I mean, there were tens of thousands of protesters in the streets just a couple of weeks ago because they wanted these folks found, and apparently they found them, but it wasn't a good outcome.
No, it wasn't. And part of the problem is that they've only found one bone fragment, so they haven't even seen any sign or anything of the other 42 students. So at this point, the parents are like, okay, great, you found one bit of DNA evidence, but you need to keep looking for the rest of the students, because at this point, the federal government is putting all of the blame on the local governments and taking none of the blame themselves, and they've taken a very long time to get into it.
A lot of finger pointing. We know that the Attorney General said that 80 people have been arrested, including 44 police officers from the cities of Iguala and Cocula, and former Iguala Mayor Jose Luis Abarca is one of those as well. What is your hope for Mexico going forward in terms of corruption and these drug gangs that they believe are responsible?
I think the situation is very complicated right now. because many of the local institutions are infiltrated by the criminal organizations. So we could think of several reforms for the future, but in the short run, I don't see like a...
There's not a quick solution.
There is no quick solution.
Omar Garcia Ponce and Gloria Chapa with us in our studio for Arise News Now. Thank you so much for bringing attention to this important story. Coming up, you've probably noticed that oil prices have dropped when you filled up the tank, but some of the consequences of the price drop haven't been positive. You're watching Arise News Now.